In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a book cover using a single image as your background. As always, start off with your template, and I'm going to insert the image that is going to be my book cover as well as the background. I'm going to insert pictures. And what I have here is a close-up shot of a good-looking man. Now, this could be the cover of a romance book. It could be the cover of a billionaire book. I'm going to use it to create the cover for a mystery book about a reality television show. This is a book that I have actually written, and I'm going to show you how the cover was created. Now, I'm only going to use this image, but I still like to follow my process of renaming the image. And of course, to move it around and manipulate it, we need to right-click, wrap text, behind text. So now I can grab it and move it where I want. So I want the image to take up the entire cover of the book. So I'm going to have to enlarge it a bit. All right, so as always, we start building our elements from the back and bring them forward. So this is going to be our background as well as our cover image. The next thing I'm going to do is bring in my text elements, the author name, the title of the book, and the tagline or slogan. So I will go to Insert, Text Box, Draw Text Box, and I'm going to put my name at the very top. And then I'm going to format it. And again, I just want to get it relatively close to what I want to do, and then I will go back and tweak it. I like to get the size almost there, again, just so I can see it. I like to look at different fonts that I could use. That one is a little large, but not a problem. Let me do this. Okay. I really like the Copperplate font, but I will also use the Georgia font because it is a really nice serif font, and it shadows well. It looks well on the cover. So again, I'm going to go back and I'll play with that a little bit more. Let me just get it there now. And as always, go through the process. Author name. I'm going to right click, wrap text, behind text. And remember, this is a graphic element even though we're using text, so I have to get rid of the fill and the outline. So I will go to Format Shape, Shape Options. Now remember, you get to this by right-clicking on your image and choosing Format Picture, and it will open up this pane. So you should be well aware of that by now. So let's go back, select the author name. I can select it here or I can select it here. Same thing. I do not want an outline and I do not want a fill. So I will turn those off, and I do want my text to be white because it is going to be on a relatively dark background. And before I'm finished, I'm also going to go in and change the size of that text, as well as I'm going to outline it and I'm going to shadow it. In fact, let's just do that now while we're here. Let me scroll, let me zoom in so you can see that up close and the effect that it has. Okay, so you can see there is my text, and I do want to put a solid outline on it. I want to click on Text Options, and if I click here, I have the solid fill of white. I am going to give it an outline, and I'm doing that just to make it stand out a little bit. And then I am also going to give it a shadow, and watch the effect that this has on the text. It just makes it pop. It gives it a little more depth. Let's go back out now and see how that looks. Not too bad. I'm going to make it a little larger. And again, you can, if the size is not in the preset, you just type in what you want and see how that looks. All right, so let's go back out to one page. All right, not too bad. I might change it a little bit, but not too bad at all. Not bad at all. Okay, now I want to put the title of the book, and the working title of this book is Reality Star. And so I could get a new text box, but I am just going to copy this one because it already has the attributes that I want. All right, and I'm going to make this a little larger, but I'm going to type in the name first. And I'm not using all caps in this case. I'm going to use upper and lowercase and see how that looks. All right, let me stretch that out a little bit. Let me go over here and call that title. And I've already done the behind text. I copied the attributes. I want to look at different sizes. And not really big enough, I don't think. So what I'm going to do, let me get rid of some of this spacing and just start playing with the size a little bit. And I really like that size, I think. Let me get rid of some of the space. Again, you may have to, on occasion, such as this, have to use separate text boxes. The reason I have so much space in there is because I have a shadow on the text. And when you use shadowing, it always adds space in between the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy and paste that. And I'm going to just pull that to the side. And in this one, I'm going to have the word reality. And in this one, I'm just going to have the word star. So what that will allow me to do now is to close up that text as close as I want to get it. It gives me a lot more freedom. And it also will let me, I could change this if I wanted to make this particular word larger than the other. I could do that. And let's see, that's a little too large. Okay, if I wanted to make the text a different color, I could do all of that if they were in the same box, but I wouldn't have as much control over the spacing, and the spacing is really what I'm looking at. So looking at this now, do I really like the upper lowercase? Well, let's just experiment. If I did all upper, reality, would help if I could spell reality. And I think probably the all caps has a much greater impact, so I'm going to go with all caps. And what I can do is, if I don't want my title to be the same font as my author name, I can just go in and change that. And I probably will. In fact, I think I will. I don't really like having them the same. I like having one font for the author name and one font for the book title. It just makes it, it differentiates the two. So let's see. I'm going to look at different fonts. I can keep it as a different serif, although with the title I really like a sans serif font, meaning it doesn't have the little accent line at the bottom. And if I could see it, actually let me do this. I'm going to close this selection pane just to get that over where you can see it. Now let me click on that and look at the different fonts, and you'll see them change as I scroll through. And be careful using scripts. A lot of people use script fonts and you can't really read the font. So just go through. Arial Black is good because it's nice and bold. There's also a font called Impact, which is nice. Bauhaus is a little too comic-y for me. So I will just kind of scroll through until I find something that I really like. And it needs to be something that fits the genre of my book. You see a script font used a lot in romance, which is applicable. You wouldn't use like a fancy script for a horror novel, nor would you use, a scary font for a romance. So you'll get better at picking fonts. Eventually, I think you will develop a style and you'll know which fonts you want to use. But again, you can just scroll through, look for what you really want to use. I like that. That's kind of a boxy font. It doesn't have the serif. It's very bold. And so let me see how that is going to look a little more. And the thing when you're doing these book covers, a lot of it really is just testing and seeing what works and what looks best. The beautiful thing is, if you don't like it, you can always go back and change it. Very easy to do. So I'm going to just settle on Rockwell Extra. I'm going to cut it down just a bit so it fits. And now I have to change star as well. And I could actually leave it a different font if I wanted to, just as kind of an accent. I could even use a script there. Again, if it goes to the theme of the book, that's one thing. This is a book about a young man who becomes a reality star of a television show, and there is murder and mayhem ensuing. So, you know, I don't want to go too crazy with it, but you can do whatever you think works. Let's go ahead. I'm going to set this to Rockwell Bold. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move this down. I don't want to get so caught up in the fonts that I waste your time while I'm doing this. All right, so there is star. Let's bring reality down. And this book also has a tagline. And the tagline, let me just go ahead and copy one of these and use it again. And when you're doing the tagline is the small text that serves as the slogan. Typically you're going to want that to be an Arial or some kind of sans serif font, something very simple. You don't want to go too crazy with it, and because it's really there just as kind of a tagline for the book. And this tagline is "People are dying to be on his show." All right, so let's make this a little bigger, too big, because I don't want it to stretch. I don't want it double lined. I just want it to be like this. Now, one thing I'm going to do here, because I've got text down here, and you know the image itself is kind of going around the full border, is I'm going to use a vignette. Sometimes I call that a vignette. I had a French teacher, and that's the way she would say it. But if you'll recall, a vignette or a vignette is just a graphic that's going to bring in kind of a smoky border around the edges. So I'm going to insert pictures and grab a vignette or a vignette. And you can see it already gives it kind of a smoky color. Let me bring my selection pane back in so I can see where I'm doing. I'm going to call this vignette, vignette. And I don't want it in front of my text. I just want it to be in front of the image, but I still need to go in. I need to choose it. And if you let me turn everything off so you can actually see it. All right. I am going to do the usual wrap text behind text, and then I'm just going to stretch it. And what a vignette is, it just gives a dark smoky border around the entire image. You can see, watch the image change. Really nice, gives a nice shadow effect. And again, I don't want it in front of my text, I just want it in front of my man. So I can bring that back up. Alright, so coming together nicely here, I think. I want to get the author above the vignette or the vignette. I'm not sure why I keep calling it that. Alright, so let's reposition this, and we are almost done with this cover. Okay. Now, what I can do is if I want the photo to pop a little better, of course, I can just click on the photo, go over to Format Picture. And, you know, I don't want to soften it because, you know, I want it sharp because it is my main image. Do I want it a little brighter? Maybe just a little. Actually, you have to be on the right layer. There we go. I'm on my man now. I do not want to lessen it. Maybe a little sharper. Do I want it a little brighter? I don't want it too bright because it really, you know, the mood of this book, it's a very dark book. But you can see playing with the brightness and contrast really changes the image. It changes the, that's too bright. It changes the lightness. It changes the contrast. Okay. And then color saturation changes the color from, if I want to go a very vibrant, which really makes his eyes pop, but it's almost just too much, I think. So that's a little better. That's kind of cool. But then I can also go to the other end of the spectrum and make it a black and white, but I think that loses impact. So let's look at that. I think that's pretty good. That's the original, and that's that one. And then if I want to tone down the warmth, I can do that using the color tone. Remember, if you go colder, it's more of a blue. And if you go warmer, it's more of a red. So I think somewhere probably just to the left of center. And I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. So there it is. That's the cover. This is a mystery novel. Now, if I wanted to, I could change the image. If I didn't like this particular guy, and if I had another guy, it's very easy to change. I'll show you. Let me turn that off. Let me insert pictures. Right-click, wrap text. And I want to send him all the way to the back. So rather than just click those little squares, I'm just going to go send to back and send him all the way to the back. Now let me move him around a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the vignette and I'm going to grab him and move him around a little bit. All right, so I'm going to have to make the image a little larger. Turn my vignette back on. So you can see that kind of gives it a different look. And what I may want to do is actually move the title up, since this image is taking up the bottom half. And so I could do that very easily. Let me just grab, what I'll do is I will actually change places. I will take the author name here, move it aside for now. I'll take the title, and I'll just move it to the top. And so you can see, just by changing the background and changing the position of the type, you have created another version of this cover. And again, I keep saying this, the beautiful thing is, once you have all of the elements in place, then it's just a matter of getting them where you want, getting the shadows, the outlines, getting them set like you want them to be, and then you have yourself a great book cover.